When we talk about taking full responsibility for your life, it's easy to hear that as a burden, as if you're being asked to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. But it's not about blaming yourself for everything that's gone wrong or pretending you can control every twist in your life. It's about claiming the power you do have the power to respond, to grow, and to create a life that's deeply aligned with who you're meant to be. Responsibility starts with honesty. And let me tell you, being honest with yourself isn't always comfortable. It requires looking in the mirror and admitting where you've let fear, doubt, or even excuses dictate your choices. And maybe it's the project you keep putting off because you're afraid you'll fail, or the conversation you've avoided because it feels too vulnerable. We all have those moments where it's easier to point fingers at circumstances or other people. But when you do that, you're handing over your power. You're saying, this is out of my hands, and let me ask you, what kind of life can you build if your power is always sitting in someone else's pocket? Taking responsibility doesn't mean ignoring the challenges you faced. It's not about dismissing the pain or pretending the deck hasn't been stacked against you at times. Life can be messy, unfair, and downright heartbreaking. But even in those moments, you have a choice. You can choose to stay stuck, to replay the story of what's gone wrong. Or you can ask yourself, what can I do now? How can I grow through this? That's where your power lies, not in controlling the uncontrollable, but in deciding who you're going to be in the face of it. It's you. One of the most profound shifts you can make is to stop seeing responsibility as a punishment and start seeing it as a privilege. Think about it. You had the incredible opportunity to shape your life, to decide what you're going to stand for, and to create meaning from whatever comes your way. Not everyone gets that chance. And the truth is, when you take responsibility for your life, you start to see yourself differently. You realize you're not a victim of your circumstances, you're the author of your story. You're not here to live out someone else's script, you're here to write your own. But here's the thing about responsibility, it doesn't happen all at once. It's not a switch you flip, it's a practice. It's choosing to show up every day, even when it's hard, even when you'd rather hit snooze or let someone else take the reins. It's acknowledging that growth is messy and imperfect, and you're going to stumble along the way. And that's okay. Responsibility doesn't require perfection. It requires courage, the courage to keep showing up for yourself, to keep learning, and to keep moving forward. Sometimes responsibility means forgiving yourself. Because let's be honest, we've all made mistakes. We've all said or done things we wish we could take back. But carrying shame and regret like a backpack full of bricks isn't responsibility, it's self-punishment. True responsibility says, I own what happened, I learn from it, and I choose to move forward. It's an act of self-compassion as much as an act of accountability. And don't forget, taking responsibility for your life doesn't mean you have to do it alone. In fact, one of the most responsible things you can do is to ask for help when you need it. There's strength and vulnerability in saying, I can't do this on my own. And that's okay. Whether it's leaning on a friend, seeking a mentor, or even sitting down with someone who challenges you to see your blind spots. Responsibility grows in connection. It's not about isolation, it's about integration. It's about weaving your strengths with the support of others to build something greater than you could on your own. When you fully step into responsibility, something incredible happens. You stop being afraid of life's uncertainties because you know that no matter what comes your way, you have the resilience to face it. And you stop waiting for permission to chase your dreams because you realize you're the one who grants it. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start living like life is happening for you. Every choice you make, every step you take, it all becomes part of a larger story. One where you're not just a participant, but creator. So I'll leave you with this. The moment you decide to take full responsibility for your life is the moment you reclaim your power. It's the moment you say, this is my life, my one and only, and I will not waste it waiting for someone else to save me. And you have what it takes. You always have. Now it's time to believe it and live it. Discipline is one of those words that can feel heavy, like it's about rigid rules and forcing yourself to do things you hate. But real discipline, it's not about punishment or perfection, it's about freedom. Uh, It's about creating a life that aligns with your values, your goals, and the person you're becoming. Discipline isn't a cage, it's the key to unlocking your potential. Uh, The truth is, we all have dreams. We all have this vision of who we want to be or the life we'd love to live. But dreams without action are just wishes. And action without discipline is like trying to build a house with no foundation. Discipline is what bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It's the quiet commitment to show up day after day, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. Discipline starts small. It's not about overhauling your entire life overnight. It's about choosing one thing, just one, and committing to it. Maybe it's waking up a little earlier to carve out time for yourself. Maybe it's finally starting that project you've been talking about for months. It's in these small, consistent actions that discipline takes root. And what's so powerful about it is that every time you honor those commitments, you build trust in yourself. So you prove to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can follow through, and that you are capable of creating change. But let's be honest, discipline isn't glamorous. It's not about the highlight reel, it's about what happens behind the scenes. It's showing up to the gym when you'd rather stay in bed. It's choosing to focus on your work when distractions are calling your name. It's saying no to the things that feel good in the moment, but pull you away from your bigger purpose. And yes, it's hard. There will be days when it feels like the last thing you want to do. That's when discipline becomes less about the task itself and more about the person you're becoming in the process. And one of the biggest misconceptions about discipline is that it's about willpower, that you just have to grit your teeth and power through. But willpower is a limited resource. It's like a muscle that gets fatigued the more you use it. True discipline doesn't rely on willpower alone. It's about building systems and habits that make it easier to stay on track. It's about designing your environment in a way that supports your goals. Maybe that means keeping your phone out of reach while you're working or setting up a morning routine that sets the tone for your day. Discipline isn't about making things harder on yourself. It's about making the right choices easier. And let's talk about failure, because it's inevitable. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days where you skip the workout, eat the thing you said you wouldn't, or miss the deadline. That doesn't mean you failed, it means you're human. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being resilient. It's about recognizing when you've fallen off track, dusting yourself off, and getting back to it. Every misstep is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to keep moving forward. What's beautiful about discipline is that it compounds over time. Those small daily actions, those moments where you choose to stick with it, even when it's hard, start to add up. And one day, you look back and realize how far you've come. And you realize that the things that used to feel impossible are now just part of who you are. That's the power of discipline. It's not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. But discipline doesn't mean you have to sacrifice joy or spontaneity. In fact, it creates space for those things. When you're disciplined, you're not constantly scrambling to catch up or feeling guilty about what you didn't do. You've built a sense of structure and stability that allows you to fully enjoy the moments of rest, play, and connection. Discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the foundation for it. And here's the most important thing to remember: discipline is an act of self-love. It's saying to yourself, I am worth the effort. My goals, my dreams, my growth, they matter. It's not about proving something to anyone else. It's about honoring your own potential. It's about showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, because you know you're worth it. Is pedum and it. So as you think about what discipline could look like in your life, start small. Start with one commitment that feels meaningful to you and show up for it. Let it be a reminder that you are capable, that you are resilient, and that you have the power to shape your life. And because at the end of the day, discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about the life you're creating. And there's nothing more powerful than that. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding pain or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about learning how to sit with discomfort, how to face the hard stuff in life, and how to rise stronger because of it. Life is messy, unpredictable, and full of moments that will challenge you, sometimes to your core. But emotional resilience doesn't mean you don't feel those moments deeply. It means you allow yourself to feel without being consumed. It means you find the strength to navigate through, not around the storms. Resilience begins with self-awareness. You can't navigate what you don't recognize. When you feel anger, sadness, fear, or shame, it's tempting to push those emotions away, to bury them under distractions or deny them altogether. But emotions don't disappear because we ignore them. They linger, growing louder and more destructive the longer we pretend they aren't there. Resilience invites you to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this? That's the first step, not fixing it, not solving it, just naming it. When you name your emotions, you take away some of their power. They stop feeling so overwhelming, so chaotic. You begin to realize that while you have emotions, your emotions don't have you. Another part of emotional resilience is learning to embrace vulnerability. And I know that word can make you want to run for the hills. Vulnerability feels risky, doesn't it? It's the moment when you say, I'm scared, or I don't have all the answers, or I need help. But here's the paradox: the moments that make you feel most vulnerable are also the moments that make you most human. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's courage in its rawest form. It's saying, this is who I am, flaws and all, and choosing to show up anyway. Resilience grows when you let yourself be seen, not just in your strength, but also in your struggle. Resilience also asks you to rewrite the stories you tell yourself. Because, let's be honest, we all have those stories, the ones that whisper, you're not enough, or you always mess up, or why bother? As these stories might come from past experiences, things people have said, or even your own fears. But here's the truth. Just because a story feels true doesn't mean it is true. Resilience is about challenging those stories, questioning where they came from, and deciding whether they deserve a place in your life. It's about saying, this might be the story I've carried, but it's not the story I'm choosing to live. Of course, resilience doesn't mean you do it all alone. It's not about being so strong that you never need anyone else. In fact, one of the greatest acts of resilience is allowing yourself to lean on others. Just connection is one of the most powerful tools for navigating hard times. Whether it's a friend who listens without judgment, a mentor who offers guidance, or even a therapist who helps you unpack the things weighing you down, resilience grows when you let people in. We are not meant to go through life alone. Strength doesn't come from isolation, it comes from community. There's another layer to resilience, though, and it's about perspective. When you're in the middle of a hard moment, it's easy to feel like it's never going to end, like the weight of it will crush you. But resilience teaches you to take a step back, to remind yourself that this moment, as hard as it is just a chapter, not the whole story. It's about trusting that you'll find your way through, even if you can't see the ending yet. It's about looking for the small glimmers of hope, the little signs that remind you that you are stronger than you think. Sometimes resilience is just about putting one foot in front of the other, even when the path feels impossibly long. And let's not forget that resilience isn't just about surviving the hard moments. It's about growing from them. Every challenge, every setback, every time life knocks you down, it's an invitation to learn something new about yourself. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's discovering that you're capable of far more than you ever imagined. Resilience doesn't just help you bounce back, it helps you bounce forward. It turns the pain into wisdom, the struggle into strength. So when life feels heavy, when you're standing in the middle of the storm, remember this resilience isn't about being unshakable. It's about being unbreakable in spirit. It's about knowing that no matter how many times you fall, you have the power to rise again. And every time you do, you remind yourself in the world that nothing can keep you down for long. And continuous learning is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. It's not just about gathering knowledge, it's about expanding who you are, opening yourself up to new perspectives, and committing to the idea that growth doesn't stop when you hit a certain age or a certain milestone. It's about recognizing that every experience, every conversation, every challenge holds an opportunity to learn something that can shape your journey. And when you embrace that mindset, life becomes this beautiful, never-ending process of becoming. We often think of learning as something formal, a classroom, a course, a stack of books. And while those are valuable, learning doesn't have to be confined to traditional spaces. It happens everywhere. It happens when you listen deeply to someone whose life looks completely different from yours. It happens when you try something new and stumble your way through it. It happens in the quiet moments when you reflect on what's worked, what hasn't, and what you want to do differently. Learning is as much about curiosity as it is about education. It's asking, what else is out there? What don't I know yet? What can I discover if I just pay attention? But let's be real, committing to continuous learning. Learning takes humility. It's admitting that you don't have all the answers, and you never will. And that's not a flaw, it's a strength. There's freedom in letting go of the need to be the smartest person in the room, or to always have it all figured out. So when you can say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, you open the door to growth. You create space for others to teach you, for life to surprise you, and for yourself to evolve in ways you never imagined. One of the most powerful things about learning is that it connects you to your potential. It's easy to get stuck in routines, to feel like you've reached the limit of what you're capable of. But every time you learn something new, whether it's a skill, an idea, or even just a different way of seeing the world, you expand your sense of what's possible. You remind yourself that you're not static, that you're always growing, always capable of more. And isn't that such a hopeful thought? That no matter where you are today, there's always room to grow into something greater. And continuous learning also invites you to embrace failure. Because let's face it, if you're learning, you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes, stumble, and sometimes fall flat on your face. And that's not just okay, it's necessary. That failure is one of the best teachers there is, but only if you're willing to learn from it. Instead of letting mistakes define you, let them refine you. Ask yourself, what can I take from this? How can this make me stronger, smarter, or more resilient? When you view failure through the lens of learning, it stops being something to fear and becomes something to value. Another incredible thing about continuous learning is how it deepens your connections with others. When you're curious, when you're open to hearing someone else's story or perspective, you create opportunities for real, meaningful relationships. You learn to listen, not just to respond, but to understand. You begin to see the world through others' eyes. And that kind of empathy can transform how you show up in every area of your life. Learning isn't just about what you take in, it's about what you give back. It's about how you use what you've learned to lift others up, to spark conversations that matter, and to leave the world a little better than you found it. And then let's not forget the joy in learning. There's something so energizing about discovering something new, about challenging your brain, and feeling that spark of curiosity light up again. It's not just for kids or students. That spark is something you can reignite at any stage of life. Whether it's learning to play an instrument, diving into a subject you've always been curious about, or simply picking up a new hobby. Learning reminds you that life is full of possibilities waiting to be explored. It keeps you engaged, vibrant, and alive. But perhaps the most beautiful thing about continuous learning is that it reminds you that you're never done. You're never finished growing, changing, or becoming. And that's a good thing, because it means every day holds the potential for something new, a new idea, a new perspective, a new version of yourself. Learning isn't a destination, it's a journey. And the more you embrace it, the richer, deeper, and more fulfilling your life becomes. So let this be your reminder: stay curious, stay open, stay willing to learn, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges what you thought you knew. Because the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. And you were made to grow. You were made to explore, to discover, and to become the best version of yourself, one lesson at a time. Is cultivating healthy relationships is one of the most meaningful investments you can make in your life. At the core of who we are, we're wired for connection. We crave it, we thrive on it, and we suffer deeply when it's missing. But the truth is, healthy relationships don't just happen. They're built moment by moment through intentional choices, vulnerability, and a deep commitment to showing up not just for others, but for ourselves. And healthy relationships begin with self-awareness. You can't connect with someone else in a meaningful way if you're disconnected from yourself. It's about understanding your needs, your boundaries, and even your triggers. It's asking yourself, what do I bring into this relationship? Am I carrying unspoken expectations, old wounds, or fears that might get in the way? When you take the time to reflect on what's going on inside of you, you bring a clearer, more honest version of yourself to the table. And that clarity, it's a gift not just to you, but to the people you love. But here's the thing about healthy relationships: they require vulnerability. And I get it, vulnerability can feel terrifying. It's risky to let someone see the real you, especially in a world that often celebrates perfection and invulnerability. But without vulnerability, there's no authenticity. There's no trust. There's no depth. Being vulnerable doesn't mean sharing every part of yourself with everyone. It means being willing to open up with the people who have earned your trust. Saying, here I am, messy, imperfect, and human, and I trust you enough to let you in. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and it's built over time through small, consistent actions. It's in keeping your word, in showing up when you say you will, and in being honest even when it's hard. And trust isn't just about the big moments, it's about the seemingly small ones too. It's in the way you listen without interrupting, the way you remember the little details, and the way you show someone they matter. This trust isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. And when it's there, it creates a space where connection can truly flourish. Boundaries are another essential piece of the puzzle. So often, we think of boundaries as walls, things that keep people out. But healthy boundaries are the opposite. They're not about closing yourself off, they're about creating a safe space where relationships can thrive. The boundaries are a way of saying, this is what I need to feel respected, to feel valued, to feel safe. And they're not just about protecting yourself, they're also about honoring the other person. When you set boundaries, you're giving the relationship clarity. You're saying, here's how we can show up for each other in a way that works. And yes, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to saying yes to everything. But boundaries are an act of love, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. Healthy relationships also require effort. It's easy to think love, friendship, or connection should just flow naturally. But the truth is, anything worth having takes work. It's about being present even when life gets busy. It's about apologizing when you've hurt someone and forgiving when someone has hurt you. It's about celebrating each other's wins, holding space for each other's struggles, and showing up, not just when it's convenient, but also when it's hard. An effort doesn't mean the relationship is perfect. It means it's intentional. It means you're committed to growing together, even when it's messy. As And let's not forget communication. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about listening, really listening. It's about putting down the phone, looking someone in the eye, and hearing not just their words, but the feelings behind them. It's about asking questions, seeking to understand, and resisting the urge to fix or solve. Healthy communication says, I see you, I hear you, and I value what you're sharing with me. It's not always easy, especially when emotions are high or misunderstandings arise. But every time you choose connection over conflict, you strengthen the bond you share. Of course, not every relationship in your life will or should last forever. Part of cultivating healthy relationships is knowing when to let go. It's recognizing when a connection is no longer serving you or the other person, and having the courage to walk away with grace. Letting go isn't failure. It's making space for relationships that align with who you are and where you're going. At the heart of it all, cultivating healthy relationships is about love, not the big, dramatic kind we see in movies, but the steady, everyday kind. It's about showing up with kindness, with empathy, and with a willingness to grow. It's about saying, through your actions, you matter to me, and this relationship matters to me. And so as you look at the relationships in your life, remember this: the quality of your connections shapes the quality of your life. Love deeply, communicate honestly, and choose the people who choose you. Because at the end of the day, the relationships we cultivate are the legacy we leave behind. And defining and pursuing a higher purpose isn't about finding one grand, perfect mission written in the stars. It's about tuning into what gives your life meaning, what lights you up, and what pulls you towards something greater than yourself. Purpose isn't necessarily loud or dramatic sometimes. It's quiet and subtle, like a whisper that tugs at your heart. It's not always about changing the world on a massive scale. It's about how you choose to show up in the world every single day. The first step is listening, not to the noise around you or the expectations of others, but to yourself. What do you care deeply about? What moments in your life have filled you with a sense of fulfillment and belonging? And then so often we look outward for validation, for someone to tell us who we're supposed to be or what we're meant to do. But purpose doesn't live outside of you. It's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. It's found in those things that make you lose track of time, those moments when you feel most aligned, most alive. Pursuing a higher purpose doesn't mean you have to have all the answers right now. In fact, purpose often reveals itself over time. It's not always a lightning bolt sometimes. It's a series of small moments that slowly build into clarity. And maybe it starts with a curiosity, a passion, or a problem you feel called to solve. Maybe it's as simple as asking yourself, how can I serve? How can I make someone's day a little brighter, a little better? Purpose is less about the size of your actions and more about the intention behind them. And let's be honest, pursuing purpose isn't always easy. It's not a straight line. It's messy and challenging and often filled with doubts. You might wonder if you're on the right path or if you're doing enough. But that's the beauty of it. Purpose isn't about perfection. It's not about getting it right all the time. It's about showing up, doing your best and staying true to what matters to you, even when it's hard. It's especially when it's hard. Purpose also asks us to look beyond ourselves. It's not just about what we can achieve or accumulate, it's about how we can contribute. It's about recognizing that we're part of something bigger, a community, a cause, a world, and asking, how can I make a difference? A difference doesn't have to be grand or revolutionary. It can be found in the small, everyday acts of kindness and courage that ripple out in ways you may never fully see or understand. Understand, pursuing purpose also means letting go of comparison. It's so easy to look around and think, their purpose is bigger than mine, or I'm not doing enough, but purpose isn't a competition. It's deeply personal. It's yours. And the only person you need to compare yourself to is the one you were yesterday. Trust that your purpose is enough, that it's unique to you, and that it matters. And while purpose is deeply personal, it doesn't mean you have to walk the path alone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is invite others into your journey. Share your dreams, your passions, your fears. Let people support you, challenge you, and help you grow. Purpose often thrives in connection, in the way we inspire one another, lean on one another, and remind one another of what we're capable of. One of the most important truths about purpose is that it evolves. The person you are today isn't the person you'll be in 5 years, and that's a beautiful thing. What feels like your higher purpose now might shift, expand, or deepen as you grow. And that doesn't mean you've lost your way, it means you're paying attention. It means you're staying open to the ways life is calling you forward, inviting you to learn, stretch, and step into the next version of yourself. Designing and pursuing a higher purpose doesn't mean every moment of your life will feel clear or meaningful. There will be days when you doubt yourself, when you wonder if what you're doing matters. But purpose isn't about never questioning. It's about staying committed, even when the path is uncertain. It's about trusting that every step, no matter how small, is part of something bigger. And in the end, pursuing purpose is about legacy, not in the sense of fame or recognition, but in the impact you leave behind. It's about how you made people feel, the love you shared, and the difference you made in the lives you touched. Because when all is said and done, the measure of a life well lived isn't in what you've accomplished, but in how you've shown up for the things and the people that truly matter. So ask yourself what pulls at your heart. What makes you feel most alive? And how can you take one small step toward that today? Because a life with purpose isn't a perfect life. It's a life fully lived. And that is more than enough. As we come to the end of this journey together, let me leave you with this: becoming your best self is not about reaching some distant, unattainable destination. It's about choosing every single day to show up for your life with intention, courage, and a willingness to grow. It's about taking responsibility for your story, embracing discipline as a tool for transformation, and finding strength and resilience. It's about opening your heart to meaningful relationships, staying curious through continuous learning, and anchoring yourself in a purpose that's bigger than you. The path to your best self isn't a straight line, and it's not without its challenges. But within those challenges lies your power, the power to rise, to adapt, and to keep moving forward. Every small choice, every brave step, and every moment of reflection builds the person you're meant to become. And then along the way, you'll inspire others to do the same. Since your best self is already within you, waiting to be uncovered, nurtured, and celebrated. So take what resonates from today, hold it close, and go forward with the knowledge that you are capable of more than you can imagine. And the world is waiting for the unique brilliance only you can bring. Step into it fully, unapologetically, and with all the heart and determination you've got. Because your best self isn't just a goal, it's your gift to the world.